Welcome back. Business leaders from around the world are meeting in Davos, Switzerland for this year's World Economic Forum. Yahoo Finance's Alexis Christoforous sat down with the CEO of the Salesforce Foundation to break down everything from sustainability to youth impact.
You committed $17 million and 1 million volunteers last year, I believe, to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
Give us an update on that. How are things going? What's progress looking like?
Well, I think progress has been outstanding in the sense that, first of all, if I mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, even within my company 5 years ago, they would wonder what it was.
Right.
Now what you see is every company and every employee within every company is starting to talk about it on a global level all over. And we've seen that manifest itself in Salesforce. And so we track and measure our impact against the Sustainable Development. I shouldn't say against, that sounds like we're competing, but as we approach the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're actually tracking our employee volunteerism. Our employees give about 1.2 million hours that we're forecasting this next year back into the communities in which we live and work. And we're saying, okay, what is our contribution to each one of those Sustainable Development Goals? We're tracking our grants in mapping those back to the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as what we actually provide to nonprofits or education institutions. What Sustainable Development Goals are we helping out there with our products and services? So it's really changed the way we measure impact. And what's great about it is that instead of companies or nonprofits measuring their own set of goals, what really aligns is that I'm getting tongue twisted. The Sustainable Development Goals is a common measurement framework that we all can work from.
Mm-hmm. You have a very robust grant program. You mentioned the grants. You give hundreds of millions of dollars. You gift it to charities and different foundations. There's a lot of competition for these grants. Tell us what it is you're looking for in a grantee partner.
I think the main thing that we do is we've really been looking at places where we live and work and where we can focus on, it's difficult, the grant budget, if you were trying to solve, we focus on education and workforce development. And if we were trying to solve everything in education and workforce development, we would get spread very thin. So the first thing that we look for is in communities in which we live and work, because we also have an employee engagement program where we circle the schools in our local communities. So the first criteria would be, it would be areas in which we can actually influence with the full weight of our programs. It goes far beyond just the grant-making capacity. It's like, how can we engage? That's what Davos Code is all about. How can we engage in the local communities? So that's the first thing, and then we have some very strict kind of impact measurements, and we see if we want to make sure that these organizations are they established, are they trusted, and what are their tentacles in the community, and what kind of impact they can have, and what are their targets, and how they align. So we have a very rigorous and robust grants team that evaluates.
You mentioned Davos Codes. I love what you're doing here. You've got 50 local school children, age 14 to 15, working with using their computer skills and technology to have an impact on the world. I know last year they tested water pollution and actually got the local government here to change their laws, and now they're recycling plastic. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing. What are the kids working on this year?
So what's fun about this year, there's really a couple of things going on this year, but one of the things I will mention is this is an example of a multi-sector partnership. We have the government involved, the local government here, the media is broadcasting this all over Switzerland, and then the other thing is we're working with the schools. Then you have a partnership with us in the business community. So that's SDG 17. And we're focused on, I think there's 6 SDGs that have been covered here at Davos Codes. And what they're focused on really is youth are activated right now. And you've seen it like Greta Thunberg being the ultimate spokesperson for it. And they're frustrated. And they want to be able to, how do I take that frustration and make myself a citizen scientist? So what we did was we created a model and a playbook that we worked with the students, with the school, and behind me there's devices here. This is actually an environmental reading device that you can put in any classroom, and they planted these all over Davos, the town of Davos. And this will measure things like air quality and temperature, and then they will feed that into a database, as well as over here they've got cameras to track wildlife. So now they can become citizen scientists, and they planted these all over the town of Davos. I don't know if we have a map.
They must have had a great time doing that. And then all the data they collect gets given to larger organizations that are trying to make a difference, like the United Nations, for instance.
Yes.
cut.
So going back to an earlier question you had was why one of the things that we're trying to expose is how multi-sector partnerships work. So as people come in and out of the door of Davos Codes yesterday, what you would see is that this is a model that can be replicated in any classroom, and Davos is part of our community. We actually work here throughout the year, and so what happens is that when we've had a number of people come in and say, can we replicate this in our classroom? The answer is yes. And ultimately, the vision is that all this data feeds into a set of activated citizen scientists from multiple countries, and we're giving the youth a chance to express and actually activate their passion for environmental concerns.
I just love it. Great work you're doing. Rob Acker with Salesforce.org. Thanks so much for your time.
Hey, thank you very much, Alexis. Thank you.
Stay tuned for more live coverage at the World Economic Forum in Davos right here on Yahoo Finance all week long.